Hey everybody, real quick, if you need a recap of Gen V Season 1, I've got you covered. Just hit the tab in the upper right-hand corner. It'll take you right to it. Now, Season 2 picks up with a new school year. The political climate, though, is shifted. The story being portrayed by Soups is the fact that Victoria Newman and a bunch of other Soups were killed by a deep state conspiracy theory led by Robert Singer and carried out by Starlight, who is still at large. Victoria Newman is looked at as a martyr, and the new president, President Calhoun, has put Homelander in charge of the safety of Soups. Now, Godolkin, they're about to start a new year, and they have a new dean. His name is Cipher, and he's intense. He's one of these guys that is painting the picture that it's Soups versus everybody. They're in a war now. Godolkin also has a new number 1 and number 2. The number 1 is Kate. The number 2 is Sam. But as for Jordan, Emma, Andre, and Marie, life is a little bit different. Now, they were locked up after what happened in the woods, and Marie was able to escape. After Marie was able to successfully escape, Andre thought that he could do it. And unfortunately, he couldn't. He tried really, really hard to follow the path that Marie did. He ended up just kind of crapping out. I mean, his heart couldn't take it, and he died, unfortunately. So you've got Marie on the outside, who is on the run, and then you've got Jordan and Emma, who are still inside. That is until they're bagged, they're scooped up, and they're freed. And they thought that they were being taken off to get killed, but no, in reality, they were freed because of Kate. They don't exactly want to talk to Kate once they see her, and really all she's concerned with where Andre is, and when she finds out what happened to him, she's devastated. Both Jordan and Emma, mainly Jordan, blame Kate for Andre's death. They put a lot of it on her shoulders, and she feels horrible. She never meant for this to happen. But then a new PR person for Godolkin walks up, a woman named Stacy, whose superpower is she seems to be like a bee. I mean, she's got a stinger and all. And she tells both Emma and Jordan that they were freed because of Kate. And Kate basically convinced Godolkin that both Jordan and Emma could be really our PR tools for Godolkin. Initially, they don't want to do any of that. They don't want to say what Godolkin wants them to say, but the other option is they go back to where they were, so okay, fine. They'll read off a little script in front of the media. Not too long after they're freed, they're ushered on stage. They're greeted by their family, which for both Jordan and Emma, they're not too thrilled with. It's not exactly like they have the best relationship with their parents. But they're forced to put on a sort of strong face, read off a script, and basically the narrative is going to be that they liberated their peers from sadistic imprisonment. All of this is being blamed on Shetty. They were wrongly accused, and now they're being freed. So Cipher and the current administration are putting all the blame on what happened in the woods to the previous administration because obviously they can't speak for themselves. However, when it's opened up to the media to ask questions, they ask, where's Andre and Marie? But Stacy shuts it down right away. Once Jordan does get off stage, she walks up to Kate and says, no, seriously, where is Marie? But Kate says, we don't know. She just escaped. And Jordan's surprised that Vought hasn't been able to locate her because Marie escaped months ago, and Kate is surprised that Marie didn't tell them where she was going. Jordan, though, doesn't really trust a thing Kate says, and Kate is adamant. Look, I made a deal for you guys. If you're on campus, you are safe. Marie is in danger. So, if you know where she is, tell me so we can get her on campus and protect her. But neither Emma or Jordan are really in a trusting mood with Kate at this point, so they kind of tell her to pound sand. They then all have to listen to Cipher's introductory speech as the dean, and it's intense, as I said, but Cipher looks really familiar to both Jordan and Emma. They recognize him, and once they get alone in their dorm, they start talking about the fact that, yeah, I've seen that guy before. Jordan recognized him as a doctor, and now all of a sudden he's a dean? And when Emma looked him up online, there wasn't a ton about him. They don't know what his powers are, and the whole thing seems super, super shady. Emma then changes the subject to mentioning how one of the two should tell Andre's dad what happened to him, but Jordan doesn't feel like that's the right thing to do. Nothing good can happen from it, but Emma's adamant. No, it is the right thing to do. His son isn't rotting in prison like he thinks. So against Jordan's advisement, Emma decides to head over to Andre's dad's place, and Andre's dad is going through it. He looks like he's in rough shape. Because of this, right away, Emma can tell that Andre's dad already knows. Polarity tells Emma, look, I know, thanks for stopping by, but just leave me alone. But Emma won't. She tells Polarity, look, you have friends in Vought. Jordan saw Cipher, the new dean, at Elmyra. Something's going on, we don't know what, maybe you can figure it out. Polarity, though, snaps at her, telling her, I don't care, and if you want some advice, leave that school and stay as far away as possible. Now, as Emma was talking to Polarity, Kate went to have an intense conversation with Cipher where you get a look at how intense this guy is. Kate confronts him about what happened with Andre, whether or not he knew. And he says, yeah, I knew. And the way that Cipher acts, it's as if Andre dying was Andre applying for a job. Like, it's no big deal. And when Kate threatens to get Homeland after her, he grabs her hand and insinuates that he's going to put it in a blender. This guy just isn't messing around. You can tell that Kate is scared of this guy, and as she leaves his office, he yells, look, if you want to do something, go find Marie. Okay, so where is Marie? She's actually not too far away. She's like 45 minutes away from campus, and she's keeping a low profile, but she is quickly going broke. She basically lives on convenience store food, and then she goes to a seedy motel, and she cold calls around trying to locate her sister. So far, she hasn't had much luck, and after unsuccessfully cold calling another place, she finds out via the news about Jordan and Emma rejoining Godolkin, which comes as a big surprise to her. The next day, however, her low profile becomes a bigger profile because as she's walking by, she notices that pro-Starlight people are being accosted by anti-Starlight people. She's not willing to let that happen. She wants to put a stop to it. And at first, she just tells the guy, look, go away, but he doesn't. And that's when she uses her powers. I mean, she eviscerates these guys, really embarrassing them. But it was all caught on tape, and shortly after all of these guys are knocked out, the pro-Starlight people realize, wait, you're Marie. She denies it, though, telling him, I'm nobody, but the damage is done, and Vought now has a lead on where she is. Vought sends a tracker, a guy named Dognot, whose ability is, well, he's a bloodhound, but in a human form. He's got a very successful TV show, and it doesn't take him long to get to that convenience store where Marie usually buys her food. And it also doesn't take long for him to track her down at the seedy motel. Both Dognot and Marie start getting into a fight. They go back and forth for a while, and eventually Dognot ends up on top of her. He's about to inject her with some kind of serum, until all of a sudden, the motel door flies open, Dognot is blasted against the wall, and Marie is saved by Starlight. Just like Dognot, Starlight was able to track Marie down using that viral video. But once the two start talking, Marie is really surprised about Starlight's request, because she wants Marie to go back to Godolkin. Starlight explains to Marie that her friends had made a deal with Vought, and she wants Marie to go back to Godolkin and make the same deal. And the reason is because Thomas Godolkin, a scientist who the university is named after, was doing some research for something called Project Odessa. And the people that Starlight are working with have a source that are telling them that they're going to resume that project. They don't know what it is, but whatever Project Odessa is, it's probably not good. Thomas Godolkin was Vaught's right-hand man. So essentially, Starlight is asking Marie, go back, dig around, and find out what's going on, and then report back to us. But Marie doesn't want to do that. As she explains to Starlight, you want me to give myself up to the evil corporation who had tortured me? Starlight realizes this is a Hail Mary, and Marie is putting herself at risk, but Starlight and whoever she's working with, she won't tell Marie. They just feel like it's worth it. As she tries to explain to Marie, this is war, and what happens if Project Odessa is Homelander's nuke? I mean, we need to stop it. She turns Starlight down, and Starlight understands, but before she leaves, she tells Marie, you can't stay out of this fight forever. And that is true. Because back at Godolkin, both Emma and Jordan decided to go to a frat party. They needed to get their mind off of everything that happened to them. Jordan's drinking, Emma's kind of just lounging, and that's when her old roommate, Justine, walks up and tries to act like she actually cares and they're old friends. But Justine is with Sam, who's being a little standoffish. Justine ends up asking Emma to come on her podcast and revealing basically that she's going to use Emma for clout. Emma pushes her. Justine runs away, but she ends up getting the one-on-one with Sam that she's wanted. She goes off on Sam, but Sam tells her, look, I'm sorry what happened to you, but it's got nothing to do with me. He actually goes so far as to say, hey, let's call a truce and say the past is the past, but Emma says, no. You kidding me? Andre died. And that's got Sam shook. He had no idea, and Emma just says, yeah, go ask Kate, and leaves. He does just that. He goes and asks Kate. He's concerned that it's from what they did, and Kate says, do you want my help again? And he yells and says, no, I want all this to stop. I want to go home. But that's when Kate touches him and says, nothing matters, feel nothing. He's now an emotional zombie. Emma had a different response. She became small, was used as a ping pong ball for beer pong, and then she was chatting up with a guy who she wasn't really interested in. But then his buddy came over and showed that viral video of Marie. Emma ended up stealing the guy's phone, finding Jordan, and getting together and saying, look, we can go find Marie. The geotag said she's like 45 minutes away. But Jordan's pissed at Marie. Jordan looks at what Marie did as abandoning them. But Emma, she's got a conscience, and she doesn't view it like that. And the two go back and forth for a while, but it ends with both of them leaving to go get Marie. But as they were leaving, they were seen by Kate, and they're tailed. They quickly are able to find the convenience store, and the convenience store guy says, yeah, I saw her. Actually, she's right over there. And in that moment, Marie is walking back to her motel, so it gives Jordan and Emma the opportunity to confront her. At first, it's a lot of finger pointing. Marie not being able to comprehend how both Emma and Jordan went back to Godolkin, and Jordan not being able to comprehend how Marie left them in Elmyra. But like many people in this episode, when Marie finds out that Andre is dead, her mood changes. She feels guilty. She feels horrible. As Jordan, though, blames Marie, from the shadows, Kate walks out and says, no, Andre died because he was Andre. And then all of a sudden, Marie, Emma, Jordan, they swing around and they're like, what the hell's Kate doing here? None of them want to talk to her. Kate tries to convince Marie to come back to Godolkin, but while she's reading her mind, she realizes, oh my God, you've met Starlight. And then she gets really concerned. She tells Marie, if you've met Starlight, you have to tell the people at Vought or else they're going to come for you. She starts warning her, you don't know what these people are capable of. They won't just kill you, they'll torture you. I know firsthand, I've helped them do it. Marie just says, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going back. And then Kate steps to her, trying to touch her to convince her to come back, and Jordan used her powers to throw Kate against a wall, but she did it really hard. Kate's skull is fractured, she's bleeding out. Marie is having trouble putting the blood back in. No one quite knows what to do, so what they decide to do is just leave. Leave Kate in the alley. In episode 2, Marie does, in fact, decide to go back to Godolkin, and she makes a TikTok saying that she was going through a mental health journey. She's excited to get back, but it's all for show. I mean, it's fake. She doesn't want to go back, but she has to put on a strong face because at this point, her options are very, very limited. However, shortly after getting accepted back into Godolkin, she has to go meet with Cipher. Cipher is very direct. He gets right to the point and says, yeah, look, you don't want to come back. I mean, I could tell. You want to kill me right now. You saw me at Elmyra. I certainly saw plenty of you, and I understand why you're upset. I mean, after what happened to Andre and you weren't here. But it's not your fault. I mean, I don't even know why he was trying to escape with, his condition. Now, Marie does want to know what Cipher was doing in Elmyra because obviously she, in fact, did see him there. But when he mentions this phantom condition that she never heard about, it derails the conversation. And she thinks he's lying, but he says, no, here's the paperwork. He had the same condition as his dad. I mean, every single time he used his powers, it created these small tears. And finally, it just gave out. And he knew about it. And she starts perusing through. And he actually says, you know what? Keep the file if you want. Maybe it'll help you grieve. Marie's a little surprised about this, but when she gets up to leave, Cipher says, oh, by the way, you're friends with Jordan and Emma. You might want to keep an eye on them because it's dangerous right now being a guardian of Godolkin. Kate just got attacked. Yeah, she's in the hospital. She's recuperating. She's in a coma. But, I know you're friends with her. And once she ends up coming to, we'll be able to figure out who exactly did attack her. This floors Marie. She thought for sure that Kate was dead, and to find out that Kate is in fact alive, that's not good for her. I mean, obviously, because, she's the one who was there when she got attacked. Marie, though, plays it off like she is in fact concerned. Cipher pretends that he doesn't know who actually did it, and the two go their separate ways. But it's pretty clear that Cipher knows that Marie was somehow involved in the attack. The attack on Kate, though, helps all the pro-soups and gives them more ammunition to the fact that they are a minority who is being attacked in this war of soups versus all. You've got right-wing nut jobs like Firecracker going on her podcast TV show ranting about it. But for Jordan, Marie, and Emma, they need to figure out what to do. And Emma actually suggests, why don't we just go to the hospital and finish the job? But Jordan says, no, we're not doing that. That's nuts. As they try to figure out exactly what they're going to do about the Kate situation, there's somebody else who's really concerned, and that's Sam. Sam ends up going to the hospital and talking to the nurse and saying, who could have done this to her? The nurse, though, doesn't know much information other than the fact that Kate was brought to the hospital in the condition that she's currently in, and she was found in Weehawken, New Jersey. But as the nurse is trying to administer some tests, Kate grabs her hand, and Kate starts speaking through the nurse. She says, I can't believe they left me there. The nurse then starts bleeding through her eyeballs. It's pretty scary of a sight for Sam. He's not sure what exactly all this means. And then Kate, through the nurse, says, Emma, help me. This nurse, acting as Kate, ends up stabbing another nurse. A bunch of other nurses rush in to break up the commotion, and Sam just kind of backs up. But at least now he has a little bit of information as to what might have happened to Kate. Back at school, however, the attack on Kate is all anyone can talk about. I mean, it's being brought up in classes. For Emma, she's forced to take an influencer class with this trad wife teacher. And while Emma wants to drop out, the teacher makes it clear, no, the dean wants you in this class. And the first assignment is to make a pro-Kate video. Even Marie gets in on the action, posting a TikTok about how Kate's a fighter and this and that. But when the cameras are off, Marie just goes back to her dorm where she's surprised to find Jordan there reading the file that Cipher gave her. And at first, Jordan just thinks that it's bullshit. Cipher's just messing with her. But Marie, she actually believes it. And if it is in fact true, that means that when Andre tries to move that door to escape, he basically was committing suicide. Before they can really get into what happened, though, Stacy, the PR director, comes in and gives both of them their schedule. Turns out they're in the same class that starts in about 10 minutes, so they have to go. And when they get there, it's a select group of students that were chosen by Cipher, and it's called the Hero Optimization class. He does mention that Kate, being the number one, was supposed to be in this class, but obviously she can't be. He starts out the class by asking, okay, you guys know what your powers are, but do you know how to actually use them? And they know how to use their powers, kind of, but his point is you can level up. You can become better. And then it comes to their first assignment. He tells them all you guys need to do is press the button over there. And then he leaves the room. And standing in the way between them and this button that they have to press to end the class is this Thor-like superhero with a hammer, and he's really strong, and he just starts picking through all of them. It gets so bad for one that he shatters his spine, but even though they're beefing, Marie and Jordan are able to work together, distracting the soup, whose name is Vikor, which allows Jordan to press the button and end the class. The thing is, it seemed like throughout this entire exercise, Vikor was specifically going after Marie, trying to kill her. But once the button was pressed, he stopped. For the students whose vertebrae weren't shattered, they were like, yo, what the hell was that when Cipher enters the room? And he mentions that this was a baseline of an experiment, which really pisses off all of them because, as Marie puts it, we're not your lab rats, but it turns out they kind of are. He starts talking about the fact that this class specifically is to look at how they handle pressure, and if you can't handle the pressure, then you're not meant to be a soldier at Godolkin, because there is a war going on, and they are going to be the soldiers. Once both Jordan and Marie get back to the dorm, they decide to finally have this talk that they probably should have had a long time ago because their relationship hasn't quite been the same since they were reunited. Jordan being pissed off at Marie, Marie not understanding why exactly because she feels like she did what she had to do. And it's during the talk that Jordan admits that it's just easier to be angry at Marie than terrified of losing Marie. Then the two hook up because they're sexually attracted to each other, and that's cool. It's consensual. But while those two were getting it on, Emma was just walking around campus. She ran into Rufus, who was bullying somebody about being pro-Starlight. She put a stop to that pretty quickly. And then she ran into the latest faculty member of Godolkin. It's Polarity. She's really surprised to see him. He admits that after their talk, he decided to look into Cipher, and in order to really look into the school, he needed to join the faculty. He, more than anybody, wants to take Godolkin down. Emma rehashes what she told him before at the house when he was kind of going through it about Cipher. Nobody knows who he is. He was at Elmyra, and then there's this Project Odessa that they heard about. And Polarity doesn't really care about Cipher. He just wants to go scorched earth. But Emma's able to talk him back to reality, that they need to figure out who exactly Cipher is, why exactly he's at Godolkin, what his plan is, and then they can act accordingly. Polarity's never heard of Project Odessa, but he does know where to look for information on Project Odessa or for information on Thomas Godolkin, and that is the archives. When Emma and Polarity go over to the archives, they see a very familiar face. It's the Rememberer, and what he remembers about Polarity is the fact that he doesn't like him. So when Polarity tries to get in the archives, he shuts it down. That is until Emma comes over and completely fangirls all over the place about the Rememberer. Emma starts kissing his ass so much that he's more than willing to let them into the archives to look for information on Thomas Godolkin, and thus look for information on Project Odessa. Now, one thing that I didn't mention up until this point is the fact that Emma is tripping. You would think this would be a deterrent, but it actually becomes a huge advantage for both Polarity and Emma, because as they look for this needle in a haystack, Emma realizes that there is a secret room behind the filing cabinets that is just hidden back there. She can hear the fan. And sure enough, when they investigate, there is a secret room, but this secret room is full of Nazi paraphernalia. It's painfully clear that Vought had deep ties to the party, because this room looks more like a Nazi museum than anything. Shortly after taking it all in, they do start looking through some filing cabinets, and it's Emma who finds the file on Project Odessa. And now that Emma knows exactly what Project Odessa is, she gets so excited that she becomes big. I mean, she becomes so big that it destroys a lot of the archives. Alarms go off. Once she eventually becomes, normal size, she rushes back to campus with the file, and that's when she's approached by Sam, who found out that she had something to do with Kate's attack. He was at a fraternity meeting, and he only really went there because of the Deep. The Deep was initiating new pledges. He wanted to check and find out exactly what the Deep and Homelander were doing about Kate's attack. But that's when a couple of guys mentioned how Emma stole one of their phones and took a $90 Uber to Weehawken. So at that point, Sam knew that Emma had something to do with it. At first, Sam just gets right to the point, saying you had something to do with it. Emma plays dumb. But Sam gets really, really angry about this, screaming that it's not a coincidence. Kate gets attacked, and everybody, including Marie, show up on campus the next day. He kind of catches himself, though, and he just starts saying how Kate is everybody's friend. She worked tirelessly to get them out of Elmyra. She didn't deserve that. And Emma says, wake up, man. She's the reason we got locked up. She's the reason that Andre died. She brainwashed you. She brainwashed your brother. She's not your friend. And then she slowly walks away from Sam because she's still terrified of him. Now, at this point, a lot of the campus is celebrating something. For Marie and Jordan, who are having pillow talk, they're not sure what it is, though. And when they head out to the quad, they overhear the fact that the attacker on Kate has been found. But the person they're pinning the attack on is someone Marie remembers from covering her outstanding debt at the convenience store. One of the students excitedly shows them a clip of Dognot explaining how he found this guy, but Marie and Jordan, they know that this guy is not the person that attacked Kate, because, they are. And that's when Emma excitedly runs up to them and says, guys, I know what Project Odessa is. And then she looks at Marie and says, Marie, Project Odessa is you. Showing her the file, and yeah, sure enough, Marie is, in fact, Project Odessa. In episode 3, the next day, Marie, Jordan, and Emma go to Polarity's house, and they start all discussing what they're going to do about the fact that Marie is actually Project Odessa. A lot of ideas are thrown out there, none of them being that good. And the conclusion becomes that Polarity is going to ask around from some contacts he still has at Vought, whereas Marie is going to contact her Aunt Pam. It's her mom's best friend. She hasn't talked to her in years, but she thinks she still has her number, and maybe Pam has some information about the whole Odessa situation. Polarity then nicely tells everybody, oh, okay, you got to get out of my house. But before Emma leaves, he pulls her aside. And she thinks it's because Polarity saw her without clothing on, which is something she's used to. But no, he pulled her aside because he's concerned about how she got from big back to normal size, the whole throwing up thing. But she assures him, no, I'm all right. It was just an emergency situation. As those two were having that discussion outside, Jordan and Marie were discussing the relationship between Marie and her aunt. It's not good. Pam seems to have cut off all contact with Marie after Marie's parents died, so it's like 50-50 whether or not Pam will even entertain a meeting with her. Marie, though, changes the subject because there was something that Marie said during Pillow Talk the previous night that she wants to discuss with Jordan, but they got sidetracked, and that's the fact that Marie told Jordan, "I love you." Jordan, though, does not want to discuss this at this moment and just walks off. The three of them, though, head back to campus, where the big story is Kate is returned. She woke up from her coma, but she's still going through it. She suffered a major head injury after all. And it gets super uncomfortable for Kate when, after a mere 5 minutes on campus, she runs into Marie, Emma, and Jordan. Stacy, who was with Kate, has no idea about the truth of what happened with Kate, so she just assumes that they're all friends and everything's copacetic, but the four of them know exactly what happened in that New Jersey town. And Kate is staring daggers through all of them. But then Stacy reminds them, hey, you guys are all in the same class together. It's that hero optimization class, but Emma reminds Stacy, yeah, I'm not in it. And Stacy doesn't really care. She escorts everybody to the class, where Marie is tasked with fighting another one of the students. Marie ends up winning. Usual stuff for Marie. She cuts her hand open, she uses the blood, and she defeats her opponent. And when Cipher walks in, he reminds everybody the importance of this class because, after all, Kate was taken down by a bunch of Starlighters who didn't have powers. He then ends the class for the day, but he keeps Marie aside and he says, "Why do you cut your hand?" And she says, "That's just how I've always done it." And then he makes a very weird analogy with Angelina Jolie movies, basically implying that Marie needs to become a contracted killer. In order to do that, she needs to harness her powers and actually know how to use them without cutting herself open. Jordan had stuck around outside waiting for Marie to get out to find out exactly what Cipher talked to her about. Marie fills him in, but Marie is really stressed out. Not just about the Cipher stuff, not just about being Project Odessa, but also, what did Kate tell everybody? They have no idea. But then Marie brings up the whole "I love you" thing, and Jordan is forced to talk about it. And he doesn't think it's a big deal, but when Marie mentions how she was a virgin before fully hooking up, that changes things for Jordan. And he doesn't handle it well. He just says, yeah, you can't tell the first person you slept with "I love you." This really pisses off Marie. She starts going back at Jordan, but they both get distracted when they see new banners being raised up at Godolkin, and Jordan is on them. And Stacy runs up because she's excited about this. She thinks it's great, but Jordan's confused. And Stacy says, have you not looked at your email? Jordan, you're number one now. Jordan had no idea, but Stacy pulls him aside and she shows him the luxuries of being number one. You've got a car, you've got merchandise, you've got all those sorts of things, but also you are a PR tool. And Stacy hands him a speech that she prepared for Jordan to give at Thomas Godolkin Day, which is the next day. And when Jordan says, well, what if I don't want to do this? She says, oh, no, you don't have a choice. You're going to give that speech. Meanwhile, the former number one, Kate, ended up heading to Cipher's home to discuss why exactly Cipher and Vought are lying to the public about what happened to her. Why do they make those people scapegoats? Why don't they tell the truth? But Cipher says, oh, yeah, let's discuss that for a second. Then we have to tell Homelander. Homelander's going to wonder what you were doing there. He's going to come after you. Do you see the slippery slope that this has? Oh, and by the way, you'd probably have to explain why your powers aren't working. And it's true. Since Kate woke up, her powers are on the fritz. Essentially, Kate is broken. So she doesn't have a lot of power in this conversation. Cipher tells her to leave, but as she's doing so, Kate notices that Cipher, in the house, has put a vault in there. And that wasn't there with the old dean. She knows that for sure. So now Kate's wondering, what exactly is this dude hiding? Kate, though, heads back to campus where she quickly runs into Emma. And because her powers aren't working, there's not a ton she can do, but her and Cipher are the only ones that know that. So what she ends up doing is grabbing Emma's wrist and essentially intimidating her. She would like to actually do something, but she can't. And she just lets the wrist go and walks off. Emma, meanwhile, heads over to the little coffee place where the barista, who's a human, mind you, is completely stressed out. Because somebody keeps putting up pro-Starlighter posters. And when that happens, the students think it's her. But it's not. Every time she takes one down, one reappears. A lot of the students are getting really, really pissed off and threatening her, and her anxiety is at an all-time high. She is completely stressed. She can't find a new job. So as Emma is ordering muffins, another poster appears, and the barista just loses it. And Emma, being on the other side of this, not being mad at all, just wanting to know what's going on, starts talking to the barista. The barista explains, and Emma tells her, look, we'll get to the bottom of who's doing this. But then they see who's doing it. Or kind of see. It's a speedster. And Emma goes running after this person. But whoever they are, they're able to get away. And Emma is left in a men's locker room by herself. But Emma finds out who this person is when she goes to her next class, which is actually Polarity's marketing class. Because as Emma's sitting down, she notices that the student in front of her has yellow spray paint on her fingers. She ends up confronting the girl whose name is Harper, and Harper pulls her into a supply closet because being a Starlighter at Godolkin is, that's a death sentence. At first, Harper says, no, it's not the case, but eventually she gives in and says, okay, no, you caught me. Harper then reveals that her power is being a chameleon. If she touches somebody, she gets their power for about a minute. When Emma says, prove it, Harper does. But Harper's big concern is, are you going to tell on us? And Emma says, no, I'm not a snitch, but she wants to know exactly who us is. So Harper brings her into the inner circle, a.k.a. her dorm room, where Harper's roommate, Allie, initially is a little skeptical on whether they can trust Emma, but once Harper gives the nod, they start telling Emma their plan, which is essentially just vandalizing everything to be pro-Starlighter. And Emma thinks that plan is horrible. She doesn't want to insult them because she knows that they can be useful, but she thinks that what they're doing is pointless. I mean, it's not going to change anything. So she tells them, no, you guys got to destroy things, destroy property. But they quickly tell her, we're not about that life. We're theater kids. And she looks at him and says, I used to think that way of myself until someone told me that I am powerful. And you guys are powerful. You just have to believe it. You can make a change. Changing Godolkin's mind on Starlighters, especially after the phony attack on Kate, is going to be tough. And Kate is still dealing with the aftermath when she's sitting in her dorm room and in comes Sam because he needs some relief. With no Kate around, the puppets are back and they're tormenting him. He needs her to work her magic. But she tells him, Sam, I can't. My powers aren't working. And he doesn't handle that well. He goes into a dorm and he just starts smashing shit. Jordan, who just so happened to be walking the halls, tries to calm Sam down. Initially, Sam attacks him. But once Sam throws himself and Jordan through a wall to the quad, Jordan is able to get through him and say, Sam, stop, dude, enough. Aren't you tired of this crap? The two end up spending the majority of the day together, just discussing life. And a lot of it has to do with Sam's brother and their relationship, but Sam's relationship with his family and how he can't go back to him because they're terrified of him. But the talk with Jordan really does seem to help Sam. And while Sam was discussing his family problems with Jordan, Marie was facing her family problems with her Aunt Pam. She goes to Aunt Pam. She tries to psych herself up for this because she hasn't seen her in a while. And it is extremely awkward once she gets there. It's pretty clear that Aunt Pam wants nothing to do with her. She even makes up a lie about having some phantom book club meeting, so they got to speed this along. And Marie says, okay, do you know anything about Project Odessa? I found this picture in a file about it. Do you know anything about it? And Aunt Pam doesn't. But she does reveal a bombshell to Marie. And that bombshell is the fact that Marie was conceived at Godolkin University. In fact, Vought paid for everything. Marie's parents went through with it because they just wanted a baby so badly. As it turns out, Annabeth, Marie's sister, was the real miracle. Pam then goes to a drawer and pulls out a bunch of pictures from the day that Marie was born. And Marie starts flipping through it. Pam says, hey, you can keep it. But then one picture stands out. It's Cipher. Marie asks Aunt Pam, who the hell is this? And Aunt Pam says, oh, that's Dr. Gold. He delivered you. And that is something that Marie was not expecting to hear. But with photos in hand, her and Aunt Pam sit down. They start flipping through them. They start laughing. And it seems like they're actually in good spirits. Their relationship is slowly being mended. But Marie does remind Aunt Pam, hey, you have that Zoom book club thing, so I think I'll get going. I'm going to hit the bathroom before I leave. And when she does that, she notices that there's a bedroom door open that when she peers inside, it's Annabeth's room. Aunt Pam catches her in the act and says, "You got to go." And Marie says, "What the hell is this? She's living here?" And Aunt Pam explains, no, she's not living here. She lived here. This sparks a massive fight between the two. Marie wanting to talk to her sister, and Pam saying, "No, I can't let you. She doesn't want to talk to you." And that's when Marie just loses it. She reminds Aunt Pam that she is not a monster, even though Aunt Pam has made her feel like she's a monster. She was a girl who got her period, and that was it. She didn't ask to be injected with Compound V. Her parents chose that for her. And all she wants to do is talk to her sister, who she hasn't seen in years and she's been trying to track down. Right before she leaves, she just looks at Pam and says, "Can you just tell Annabeth that I was here?" And then she heads back to Godolkin with the information. When she arrives, Godolkin Day has kicked off. Cipher is up on a podium giving a speech about being a soup and all that propaganda BS. Marie is watching it with Polarity when she hears Jordan yell her name. And Jordan initially asks, "Hey, what did Aunt Pam say?" And Marie starts going through it, but Jordan cuts her off and says, "I love you. Look, I haven't said this to anybody else. I've never felt it, but I do love you." And the two kiss. It's adorable. But then Jordan hears their name because they have to go on stage and give that speech that was prepared by Stacy. And when they get up there, they start giving that speech. I mean, verbatim, word for word. But then she looks over at Marie and something changes. Well, first of all, she changes. I mean, she changes from a boy to a girl. But then the second thing that changes is the fact that she goes off script. She looks at the crowd and she says, "Andre Anderson is dead. He died in that facility. And Kate wasn't attacked by Starlighters. No, she was attacked by me." And the whole crowd is booing. As Kate, Marie, they're left dumbfounded listening to this. In episode 4, Jordan's claims are completely diminished by most of the right-wing media. They just don't buy it. It also doesn't help with the fact that Kate denies it as well. She goes to social media and says, "I was attacked by Starlighters." It's that simple. So nobody really buys Jordan's statement, and on top of it now, Jordan is vilified. Everybody's going after her. Both Jordan and Marie are summoned to Cipher's office to have a talk about what they're going to do about Jordan's whole impromptu changing of her speech. And as they're waiting outside because Cipher's in there with somebody else, Jordan is really, really frustrated. Marie is trying to make her feel better. But then they hear Cipher scream and Kate walks out. So they know that Cipher was pissed off with Kate about something. And Kate looks dejected. But when they walk into Cipher's office, they're met not just by Cipher, but by the marketing guy from Vought, Seth Reed. They're pretty confused on why the marketing guy is there, but then he starts pitching them on a fight. Jordan Lee, being the number one top dog at Godolkin, versus Marie Monroe. They'd sell this thing on pay-per-views. The marketing is off the charts. They're calling it the Gender Bender versus the Blood Bender. There's only one problem. Jordan and Marie have no interest in fighting each other. I mean, they're very adamant about that, but Cipher's very adamant about the fact that they don't have a choice. He tells both girls the public wants red meat, they want Jordan to get their ass kicked, so that's what you're going to do. And Marie says, "I couldn't kick Jordan's ass if I tried," because Marie still doesn't believe that she's powerful enough to do so. But Cipher says, "Oh, you can, and you will." And when there's even more pushback from both Jordan and Marie because they don't want to fight each other, Cipher threatens Emma, throwing her back into Elmyra. And that's something that Jordan isn't willing to risk, so she's the first one to give in, and slowly Marie gives in as well. They both are going to go through this pay-per-view fight. When they get back to the dorms and they tell Emma about this, she's pissed off. I mean, it's great that she's not going to Elmyra, but as she points out, anytime Cipher wants us to do anything, he's just going to pull this Elmyra card. I mean, what point does it stop? But that's when Marie comes up with an idea, and it's to bring Kate in on their plan. Emma wants no parts of Kate. She doesn't trust her. But as Marie points out, if Kate can use her powers on Cipher, then we can control this situation. I mean, not only could we get him to stop the fight, but we can also get in his head to figure out what exactly he's doing and what he wants. Both Jordan and Emma are very hesitant to agree to this, and Marie admits, yeah, it's a desperate idea, but it's the only idea they have. So Jordan and Marie go to Kate's dorm. They knock on the door. It's not pleasant at first, but Marie point blank tells her, "We know that you don't like Cipher, so you should hear us out." And they head inside to have a talk. Once they get inside, it's still tense between Kate and Jordan. I mean, they're not seeing eye to eye at all. Marie is really doing a lot of this pitch. But Kate tells him, I haven't read his mind. I mean, I can't get a read on this guy at all. It's weird. Kate, though, does have an idea, and that is to find some dirt on Cipher to possibly stop the fight because she knows he's hiding something in his house. After all, he's got a vault. And Marie says, this is actually perfect because I have to go train with the guy. So while I'm training with him, you guys can get inside his house and find out what he's hiding. So a little while later, both Jordan and Kate head to stake out Cipher's place. As they're doing so, they're bickering, they're arguing, but eventually they come around to reminding themselves that they used to actually be friends. And once they see Cipher leave, they head over to his place. Now, Cipher has security, but Kate tries to use her powers in order to get inside, and it kind of works. The guard does stand down, but he also does so by having sex with a garden gnome. That wasn't exactly Kate's description on what he was supposed to do. So when both Jordan and Kate get inside the house, Kate's forced to admit, my powers have been on the fritz since the incident. And Jordan's pissed off. They feel like Kate should have divulged this information, but as Kate points out, this is all your fault. My powers were fine until you threw me against a wall and forced me to have a head injury. Cooler heads prevail, though. They get back to the task at hand of finding out what is behind that vault, and when they get inside, they see it. There's a hyperbaric chamber with somebody inside whose entire body has been charred up. They start taking pictures of it, but then the guy wakes up, and they have to get the hell out of there. Now, it is worth mentioning that Thomas Godolkin, years earlier, had been trapped inside of a fire. Just throwing it out there. But while that was going on, Marie and Cipher were training. And Cipher's training method in this particular instance was to move a bunch of bags of blood from one table to another. At first, Marie didn't think she could do it without bursting the bags. And yeah, the first time she tries to do it, she does end up bursting the bag. But then Cipher tells her, just feel it. Feel every single molecule, every cell, everything, and you'll be able to do it. And by the way, stop using your hand. That does nothing. And when Marie focuses, she actually is not only able to move one bag of blood, she moves all of the bags of blood from one table to another. So Cipher decides to bump it up a little bit. He brings in a goat named Elon. The idea behind the name is that if you name it after somebody horrible, you don't feel bad if you kill them. And Marie ends up trying to use her powers on this living animal, and she's able to lift Elon up. He's fine, but then Marie notices something about Cipher. She looks over at his neck, and she can tell that he doesn't have any V coursing through his veins. But the lack of focus ends up killing the animal. The trade-off, however, is one that Marie's willing to take. She at least has some information on who Cipher is, and that is someone who's not a soup. Now, while all of that was going on with Marie, Kate, Jordan, Emma headed to her new friend's dorm room to try to figure out how they're going to sabotage something. Emma, Allie, Harper, they're smoking up, and Emma's doing a lot of the talking, saying, look, I'll get big, and, Harper, you can use your powers or anyone's powers for 60 seconds, and then she turns to Allie and says, what are your powers? And Allie's really self-conscious about her powers because she could use her hair as a weapon, but it's not the hair on her head, if you know what I'm saying. But instead of criticizing her, Emma says, wow, that's actually awesome. Okay, we can use that. But then the three of them get interrupted by Greg, Allie's brother, who came in because he wanted the weed that they were smoking. And it turns out Greg and Emma, they know each other from that class that Emma had but wanted to drop. And you can tell from the way that Emma is looking at Greg, she wants that, all of it. Yeah, she finds him attractive. In order to actually sabotage something on campus, though, Emma needs to figure out exactly how Harper is able to use Emma's powers. This is something that Emma's always struggled with. The fact that she needs to basically feel like shit to get small or big for that matter. She can't figure out how Harper's able to do it so easily. And Harper tries to give her a pep talk, thinking that maybe it could be the opposite. Maybe if Emma felt really good about herself, she could figure out how to use her powers without throwing up, of course. And what she tells Emma is, hey, we look up to you. Allie doesn't tell anyone about her powers, but she told you. That's a really big deal. You're out here inspiring us. Truly. Unfortunately for Harper, the tactic doesn't really work. Once Kate, Jordan, Emma, and Marie all get back together in the dorms, while most of the school is discussing the gender bender versus the blood bender feud that is going to take place in a day, these four have to discuss what they're going to do about Cipher and what they've all been able to figure out. Kate shows them what they found at Cipher's place, this charred up guy that's still alive. But Marie gives the bombshell. The fact that he doesn't have any compound V flowing through his blood, which means he's not a soup. And right now, Godolkin has an all-soup faculty. So if news got out that Cipher, the dean, wasn't actually a soup, but instead a human, that's a real bad look. Now, they just have to get a way for him to admit it. Marie thinks that it would be easy if Kate just got him to do that, but that's when Kate tells the room, my powers aren't working correctly. We got to think of something else. While they're discussing this, Kate gets a text from Cipher saying, hey, idiot, I've got cameras in my house. You don't think I saw you? We need to meet. And that's when they come up with the plan. Kate is going to have to meet with Cipher, and Cipher's going to want to meet with Kate at the fight. Now, Kate knows that she's going to be searched when she gets into Cipher's suite. But that's where Emma comes in, because she'll get small, she'll sneak into the suite, and she'll bring a very small camera that will record Kate and Cipher's entire conversation. Everybody's a little hesitant on how exactly Emma's going to do this, but she says, don't worry, guys, I have a team, believe it or not. So later, a very nervous Kate heads to Cipher's suite. She is, in fact, searched, and they don't find anything because there's nothing on her. While outside, Emma and her crew, which, by the way, now includes Greg, start working on getting her inside, which is going to be through the water pipe. They go to a maintenance closet, they shut it off so Emma won't drown, and Emma, who at this point is now small, starts making her way through. Unfortunately, though, as Greg is guarding the room, the maintenance guy shows up a little while after Emma started trekking through the pipe. Greg can't exactly hold this guy up. He has to tell both Allie and Harper that the maintenance guy is coming because they're still in the room and they're forced to hide. And shortly after the maintenance guy arrives in the room, he realizes that the pipe was shut off. So he turns it back on, which starts flooding the pipe, and Emma starts going for a swim. This is where Allie's power, though, comes in handy. I mean, she just drops her pants and uses her hair to weave around the valve and shut it off, likely saving Emma's life, at least delaying it enough so that she could arrive in Cipher's suite in the toilet. For a little bit of Kate and Cipher's conversation, Kate was just trying to kind of delay and kill time, but eventually she excitedly tells Cipher, my powers came back, because she wants Cipher thinking, I can make you do whatever I want if I just touch you. But Cipher doesn't panic. He actually just says, oh, what wonderful news. And then he says, you know what, put a pin on this conversation. I'm going to go to the bathroom, where Emma is trying desperately to get out of the toilet bowl. And Cipher didn't need to go number one. But luckily for Emma, she is able to escape, and not only escape the toilet, but escape the bathroom and link up with Kate, where she sets up the camera. So now Kate has all she needs to get Cipher to admit on film he is not a soup. When Cipher gets out of the bathroom, though, and Kate starts talking him up, that's when the fight is about to kick off. Up until this point, both Marie and Jordan had been warming up, if you will, in the same locker room. Jordan was a mess. Marie explaining, don't worry, this plan will work. We're not actually going to fight. We'll just kill time until Cipher calls it off. But all of that is going to rely on Kate, getting him to admit, yeah, I'm just a human. And as most of the crowd is going nuts, and you've got Emma and her crew outside watching the live feed of Cipher's suite, Kate starts going in. She says that not only did her powers come back, but they actually came back stronger than ever, and now she can read people. And then she coyly says, I just want you to know your secret is safe with me. He plays dumb at first, but she says, come on, you're human. And that's when you finally see a little bit of worry in Cipher. He says, oh my God, you figured it out. Kate nods and says, look, we don't need to tell anybody else, just call off the fight. Because at this point, you've got both Jordan and Marie circling each other in the octagon, doing nothing, trying to kill time. But instead of call off the fight, Cipher says, oh, yeah, okay, do you want to do it at a different angle? I mean, is this angle okay? Because this whole time, Cipher knew that Kate was trying to catch him in a lie. He knew that she had some recording device, and it doesn't take long before he actually finds it. Kate tries to act like she's not panicked, although she is, and she says, well, it doesn't change anything. You don't have any V in your blood. And Cipher laughs and says, you know, you must have gotten that from Marie. No, that makes sense. He goes back to watching the fight, and Kate says, "Didn't you hear me? This fight isn't happening. Call it off." But Cipher calls her bluff and says, "Yeah, I think if your powers were back, then none of this would be happening." And then Cipher shows off his powers. Because somehow Cipher is able to take over Jordan's body. Jordan is now like a puppet. And Cipher, through Jordan, starts kicking Marie's ass. But not only that, Cipher makes it known to Marie that he is controlling her. He says that thing about not using her hand. And whether they wanted to or not, now they are in a fight. It gets to the point where Jordan is wailing on Marie so much that Marie uses her new parlor trick that Cipher showed her with Elon, and next thing you know, Jordan is levitating above Marie. Marie is moving Jordan, using the blood in her body. But then it gets dangerous, to the point where Cipher ends up leaving Jordan's body. It's now Jordan back. Jordan is terrified, and Marie just lets her go, dropping to the floor, and Marie has won the fight. But questions still remain on how exactly Cipher was able to do any of this. In episode 5, the fallout from the fight is very real. Both competitors are headed back to the locker room. Marie is inundated with questions from the media, but once they actually get into the locker room area, Jordan is freaking out because she was used. She was used like a puppet. She explains to Marie how scary that situation was. How it was like she was a passenger in the backseat of a car that Cipher was driving. I mean, Jordan is truly shook by everything that happened. She's really upset because something like this has never happened before. And on top of it, she saw the magnitude of Marie's power. She knows that what Cipher believes is actually true. How powerful Marie can actually be. But as Marie tries to dispel that, saying, no, he's not true, Cipher comes out from the shadows and says, No, I am correct. I mean, come on, we just saw it. Your powers are stronger than they've ever been. That must have been exciting for you. He promises her that what she just experienced was just the tip of the iceberg, and he says, tomorrow, me and you, back to training. But Marie says, no, I'm not training with you. And she says it again and again until finally Jordan steps in and says, she said no. And Cipher laughs and says, well, do you want me to treat you like a puppet again? It was really easy the first time. He then turns his attention back to Marie, saying, you're going to change your mind because of curiosity, but also, if you don't want you and your little friends to join Kate, well, then you're definitely going to train with me. And they go, what happened to Kate? He says, oh, yeah, after that little, trying to record me situation, she's now in Elmyra. So if you want to join her, well, then, yeah, you won't train with me. That's fine. He then leaves, and the next day, Marie, Jordan, and Emma meet up in the dorms to discuss the fact that now they've got Kate and Elmyra. Marie wanting to go after her to save her, but Emma's the one who says, no, we're not doing that. Because Emma still holds a grudge with Kate. She still blames Kate for the fact that they were in Elmyra in the first place. But Marie says, yeah, exactly. We were in Elmyra. We know how bad it is. I mean, come on, guys. We have to do what's right. And all three of them kind of go back and forth, but eventually they all agree that they can't leave Kate there, because if Kate were to die in Elmyra, they would never be able to forgive themselves. So while it's risky, and while Andre died trying to get out, now they have to sneak back in and free their friend. Thanks to some liquid courage, they start going over the floor plans on Elmyra on how exactly they're going to do this, how they're going to sneak in, with Emma and Jordan filling Marie in on exactly what happened once she escaped. The fact that they really ramped up security. But even with all of that, they think they have a way in to Elmyra to free Kate. They are going to need a little bit of help, though. And that's going to be on Emma to call up Sam. Sam could be the key to making this thing a really easy exit. The thing is, Sam went home. It was something he actually talked about with Jordan when they had that heart-to-heart, and Sam at that point didn't think he could go home. He thought his parents blamed him for everything. But once he got home, he found that his parents were actually really welcoming. I mean, a little skittish, but welcoming nonetheless. He sat down, he watched some cartoons that he used to watch with his older brother, and his dad especially tried to make him feel like everything was copacetic. That's when he got the phone call from Emma, asking him for help. She fills Sam in on exactly what's going on, why they're going to Elmyra, the fact that Kate is behind bars. And Emma feels like this will be a really easy yes for Sam, but he surprises her when he says, no, I don't care about Kate. You were right about her. And in fact, you shouldn't be doing this either. And Emma admits to him, I'm right there with you, but if we don't help her, then we're just as messed up as she was. So we're going to go and try to get her out of there. She tries one last ditch plea, but it doesn't work. Sam is staying where he is at his parents' place. And that whole situation gets messy. Sam finds out from his dad that they thought Sam was dead. I mean, his mom had mourned so hard that she didn't talk for a year straight. So him just showing up randomly was a big surprise to them. But Sam also shows the reasons why his parents were scared of him in the first place and why they threw him in Sage Grove when he loses his mind after seeing his mother on the phone ordering a pizza. He's convinced she's calling Vought, and he snaps. However, these two make up later. I mean, Sam had blamed his parents for a lot of his problems. He figured that it was all the Compound V. That's what screwed him up. But his mom says, no, that's not the case. I mean, you had mental health issues, you had anger problems, and it ran in the family. She tells him a story about his uncle who had severe mental health problems, so much so that he was ready to shoot up a place until the cops got there and put an end to it. And they didn't want Sam to have that same fate. So they thought that maybe if they injected him with Compound V, it would actually help. They didn't realize all this was going to happen. Sam's mom actually apologizes, saying, if you want to blame anyone, blame me for the crappy genes that you have. But Sam doesn't do that. He doesn't pile on. He actually forgives his mom. And they're in a good space. As for Emma and her friends, they pack up the car and they get ready to leave to Elmyra to hopefully break Kate out. Right before they leave, though, Emma gets an unexpected guest, and it's Greg. Yeah, the flirtation is very real with these two. I mean, you could just feel it that probably by episode 7 they're going to be hooking up, maybe even sooner. But everybody notices it. I mean, Jordan and Marie start giving her crap for it, but they, however, weren't aware of the fact that Emma did tell Greg what she was up to, i.e. rescuing Kate. And she also tells him, hey, if you don't hear from me in a day or two, go to Polarity. He's a friend. And then they take off. Now, as for Polarity, he actually had lunch that day with Cipher. It starts off friendly enough as Polarity tries to get to the bottom of who exactly Cipher is, but like in many instances so far, Cipher is one step ahead. He tells him, cut the crap. I know that you're looking into me. I know that you're reaching out to old Vought friends to find out more information about me. I know you went to the archives. I mean, come on. What exactly did you find? Anything interesting? Cipher doesn't even wait for a response. He just gives a formulated pre-statement about how he's spent years looking to develop soups and get them to their utmost potential. And Polarity asks, what about Marie Monroe? It seems like you're getting her to her potential. And Cipher gets real low and says, she's going to change the world. He then looks at Polarity and says, just ask what you want to ask. You want to know what happened to your son, right? And that is, in fact, what Polarity wants to know. So Cipher tells him, but he doesn't sugarcoat it. He tells him that Andre's death was because he tried to push Andre to his full potential, but he wasn't capable of it. He was too weak. This gets Polarity so angry that he takes the steak knife, using his powers to put it right at Cipher's neck. But Cipher isn't worried at all. No, in fact, he actually grabs the steak knife out of the air and stabs his own hand with it. It's excessive. And as he's bleeding out on the table, he just looks at Polarity and says, you have no idea what you're dealing with. And then he goes back to work. It freaks Polarity out. And maybe the two aren't correlated, but later that day when Polarity gets home, something with him goes wrong. It's like he has a seizure. Dropping to the floor, metal objects flying everywhere. He's not well. And neither are Emma, Marie, and Jordan. They started going about their plan, but the problem is the hatch that they were going to use to get into the facility was closed off, and they got hit with some kind of stun bomb that knocked them out, and when they woke up, they were all in orange jumpsuits with those collars around their neck. So while they were trying to get Kate out of there, they ended up getting imprisoned again. Emma ends up getting thrown into the cell right next to Kate, who can't believe that Emma is there. I mean, she feels bad, but she also can't believe that Emma, of all people, risked her own safety to break her out of there. She's really appreciative of it. But then Emma notices how bad Kate looks. Of course, all of their cells are being monitored by CCTV footage, which is being monitored by Cipher, who at this point has arrived in Elmyra to monitor all of them. But he's not the only one that arrives. So does Sister Sage, who has a new title, Vaught's CEO. She took over for Ashley. But she also has a relationship with Cipher. I mean, a month ago, these guys were hooking up in Cipher's house in front of his father. I'm going to call it's his father, okay? The guy in the hyperbaric chamber, that's Thomas Godolkin. And he watched Sister Sage ride his son. I mean, from my vantage point, it looked like he enjoyed the show. So apparently these two don't have just a working relationship. They have a relationship. But in this instance, she didn't show up at Elmyra to hook up with Cipher. She showed up to see what he's been up to. And once she sees all of the students in their cells, she looks at him and says, "Oh, look, you got what you wanted." And he says, "Yeah, I will miss our on-campus training sessions, but nothing beats this constant pressure that they're going to deal with. That's where the miracles happen." And she says, "Maybe, but you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, so I brought you a present." The present, however, hasn't arrived yet, but as she puts it, "I had to. We got to speed up this process. You're running out of time." And he says, "If I succeed with Marie, Homelander's going to have feelings about how powerful she really is." To which Sister Sage says, "We could get everything we want." Kate, Emma, Marie, Jordan, they don't know, though, that they're under surveillance. I mean, how could you not, though? But for Emma, she's so depressed, she feels like she's going to die in there, and there's no convincing her otherwise. Kate tries, she fails at it. Not too far away, Marie is trying to escape using her powers, but they gave her a coagulant. And she knows this because Cipher shows up and tells her as much. Marie stands up and says, "Cipher, what do you want?" And he says, "The same thing I've wanted all along. I want you to work with me. Here's the pitch. You want to get out of here? You're going to do exactly as I say. No pushback." She mentions how she doesn't want to be a weapon, and he goes evangelical on her, telling her how he doesn't want her to be a weapon. He wants her to be the salvation of his people, the Soups. But Jordan actually lashes out and said, "Would you cut the crap and just tell her what all of this is about? We know that you were here last time. We know that you were in the delivery room when she was born. We know about Project Odessa. Just come clean. Tell us what's going on." And instead of doing that, he walks over to her cell and says, "It was so easy controlling you." But Jordan looks at him and says, "No, it wasn't. No, I could feel it. No, it wasn't easy for you. You were in pain." And Cipher doesn't deny it. He just turns his attention back to Marie and says, "Hey, why don't you come with me? I have to show you something." And that something is the present that Sister Sage brought him. That something is Annabeth. Cipher tells both girls, "Your sister has a choice here. I mean, both of you can walk out today if Marie chooses to be reasonable." But Marie doesn't choose to be reasonable. She tries to attack Cipher, and that shock collar goes into effect. They drag Marie back to her cell, and you figure they're going to try again later. But Kate had other plans. One by one, she picked out all of the staples from her head, and then she played dead. I mean, to the guards, she looked like she was in pain, and she was bleeding out. So one of the guards opened the door, but that's when Kate used her powers. Now, they were on the fritz, but I'll just say she was able to get the key from the guard, and he immobilized himself. But she was able to free herself. Then she freed Emma. Then she freed Marie and Jordan. But when they're all free, they also realize, wait, there are no guards coming. There's no alarms. Like, they want us to try to escape. But Marie points out, we don't have a choice. I mean, what, we're going to go back to the cells? No. Look, you guys get out of here. I'm going to go after Annabeth. But Jordan isn't going to let her do that alone. And that's when they actually do hear the siren, so they know that they're on borrowed time. However, when they get to Annabeth's cell and they open it up, Annabeth, or you figure somebody, cut her throat. She's bleeding out. She looks in really, really rough shape. They don't really know what to do, but Marie does. She decides to use her powers. She closes her eyes, and she is able to patch up the wound in Annabeth's neck. But while doing so, everybody in the room is in pain. I mean, really, really bad pain. This is having an effect on all of them. Though once Annabeth comes back to life, the pain goes away. And again, you see the power of Marie Monroe. In episode 6, Annabeth is understandably a little shook from being brought back from the dead, but nobody has time to talk about it because they have to get the hell out of there. And as they're making their way through, Annabeth shows some soup powers. She's able to correctly predict where they're supposed to go. And not only that, she correctly predicts when someone is going to show up to help them. And that person ends up being Sam. He showed up at the nick of time. He's got a van, and the group heads out. But the fact that Annabeth had these powers doesn't go unnoticed. When they do get in the van, though, they have to figure out where exactly they're going to go. Sam gets filled in on exactly who Annabeth is. He's very surprised. Meanwhile, in the backseat, you've got Annabeth and Marie getting reacquainted, if you will. As Marie is apologizing to Annabeth for getting her caught up in all of this, most of them are trying to process the fact that Marie just brought back somebody from the dead. I mean, everything that Cipher said about her powers and her being super incredibly powerful is true. The group, however, has to decide where they're going to go, and when the word Canada gets mentioned, Annabeth starts freaking out. Because she doesn't know who any of these people are, and now they're talking about going to a foreign country. She wants no parts of it. She wants out of that vehicle, but Marie is able to calm everybody down and say, no, we can't just do that. First of all, we have to find a safe space to go. We have to lay low for a little bit, and then we have to figure out where we're going to actually go. In the morning, they end up finding an abandoned library that they can hunker down and figure out stuff, get their bearings together, all of that crap. The place has plenty of burned books, but it also has a change of clothes, which is going to be key for Annabeth, who's covered in her own blood. While some of the members of the group are looking over the clothes pile, Jordan is finally able to talk to Marie about what she witnessed, because in Jordan's mind, everything has changed. And in Marie's mind, nothing has changed. She feels like she was used by Cipher, like Cipher slit her sister's throat just to see if Marie could, in fact, bring her back from the dead. These two kind of go back and forth, with Jordan trying to tell Marie, you were one of the most powerful soups out there. You're bringing people back from the dead, and Marie just not willing to accept that as reality. After the conversation with Jordan, Marie once again tries to talk to her sister, this time about the fact that Annabeth has suddenly got powers. And as it turns out, Annabeth does, obviously, but she's been keeping it from everybody. She has no idea when she was shot up with Compound V, but essentially, she has a spidey sense. The conversation, though, goes from being kind of normal with just Kate eavesdropping to the side to then becoming pretty contentious, because Annabeth still holds a lot of animosity towards her sister. She also wants to get back to her normal life, and she wants to check on Aunt Pam. But Marie says, no, you can't. It's not safe. But that's when Annabeth hits Marie where it really hurts. She tells her, every bad thing that's ever happened to me is because of you. You're the danger. And then she just walks off. While those two were talking about that, Sam and Emma went off to go find food, but what they also found was a phone. That did work, but Emma couldn't remember Polarity's phone number, so she did the next best thing. She hopped on the internet and went to Instagram. She messaged Harper saying, you got to get in touch with Polarity. Here's where we're at. We're desperate. We need help. And then she waited for the cavalry to show up. But the cavalry doesn't show up. Vikor does. After Annabeth has a little bit of a panic attack and Marie comes to her aid and helps her with a breathing technique that they've had since they were kids, it seems like everything's going a little bit better than their last conversation. Annabeth gets a feeling that something bad's about to happen, and that bad thing is Vikor. And Vikor was able to find them because of Emma's message to Harper. That's because after Cipher got word about the escape from Elmyra, he freaked out a little bit, but he figured that they would eventually contact Polarity. So he went to Polarity's place, and once Polarity woke up, he explained to him, all right, bud, Marie Monroe is going to contact you, and you're going to find out where she is. And Polarity didn't want to help this guy out, but Cipher did the same thing to Polarity that he did to Jordan, basically controlling him, thus controlling the conversation to Harper and finding out exactly where they were hidden. Then he just sent Vikor to bring Marie back. And Vikor starts tearing through the kids. But that's when they actually get saved by Zoe Newman. As Vikor is outside, ready to grab Marie and take her back to Cipher, Zoe comes out of nowhere, and she uses those snake-like things to just absolutely eviscerate Vikor's skull, killing him instantly. And that's when Stan Edgar shows up. As Stan is introducing himself to Marie, and Kate is telling everybody, yeah, that guy used to run Vought, Stan starts trying to get Marie to come with him. And Marie says, all right, I'll come if we all can come. And Stan is willing to make that trade-off. He doesn't want any of the other kids. He really just wants Marie. And one of the reasons why Marie feels comfortable going is because Stan introduced himself and said, I believe you know my daughter, Victoria Newman. And Zoe Newman is really excited to meet Marie, saying, yeah, my mom talked about you. So in a way, Marie feels comfortable going with these two as opposed to just, well, the alternative, which is nothing. Stan ends up taking the group 90 feet underground to a fallout shelter that he's been living in with Zoe. And as they're heading down the elevator, Marie tells Zoe, your mom shared her powers with me, and the fact that we had the same power, it made me feel special. I'm really sorry what happened to her. Once they get to the bottom floor of the bunker, Stan tells everybody that before Victoria died, she had mentioned Marie, and it piqued his interest. He was then able to locate Marie and the group because Vikor had a tracking chip, and he figured that Cipher would send his goon to collect Marie, which he did. He then instructs Zoe to get the kids all prepared and comfortable, and one of those is going to be getting a shower because they smell like hell. After Emma gets a shower, she comes out, and Sam is waiting to also use a shower, but Sam also uses this opportunity to apologize to Emma for just being a shitty person for the past year to her. Emma does seem to appreciate the apology, but there is still a lot of sexual tension between these two. It doesn't boil over, but it gets close until Sam eventually turns around and goes to head towards that shower. Right down the hall, you've got Zoe showing Annabeth a room, and it turns out Annabeth has something that Zoe always wanted, and that's a sister. And as Zoe is saying, it's so cool, you have a sister, and you're able to grow up together and do things, it makes Annabeth actually realize how lucky she is to have Marie. A lot of the animosity seems to be going away as she recounts a cool story about trick-or-treating with Zoe. But Marie is hearing none of this because her, Jordan, and Kate are at the kitchen where Stan Egger is making them food but also explaining the whole Project Odessa. He tells them that Thomas Godolkin had this project for years. The goal of this was to create God-tier superheroes. And it turns out there were dozens of failed subjects, but only 2 of them made it. The first one was Homelander, and the second one was Marie. And up until this point, she had denied being special, being different, being more powerful. But this puts her on the same playing field as Homelander. And she doesn't take kindly to that either because she views Homelander as a psychopath. She doesn't want to be compared to him at all, but once they actually sit down, Stan reassures Marie that she isn't like Homelander mentally. He wouldn't let her into his house if she was. Jordan then chimes in and says, okay, but what is Cipher's endgame? To which Stan says, well, Cipher built his entire career on the back of Thomas Godolkin's work, but they differed in one key area. Godolkin thought he could control soups, and Cipher knew that would never be the case. What Cipher actually wants is soup supremacy, a world with nothing but soups. He tells Marie, only a few people know about you and Project Odessa and you surviving and your power ability. It's really just, at this point, me and Cipher. But he then goes into how fixated Cipher is on the work of Thomas Godolkin, saying how Cipher rebuilt all of Godolkin's work after the fire that destroyed it all and reportedly destroyed Thomas Godolkin. No body was found, and there was always a rumor going around Vought that Godolkin survived, but Stan never believed that. And that's when the 3 of them think, wait, there was a fire, and there's a guy that's in a hyperbaric chamber that's charred up. That could possibly be Thomas Godolkin. The guy that Cipher's saying is his dad might not be his dad at all. And when Stan hears that, it changes everything. He gets up from the table, and he leaves, going to his office and looking through some files. Stan's original idea was just to give Marie some safe haven, and once he regains control of Vought, which he's very, very confident will happen, then she would be loyal to him. But now, with Godolkin possibly alive, no, this changes everything for him. Marie, though, follows Stan to his office, and he actually hands one of the files to Marie so she can look at some of Thomas Godolkin's original work. But what he tells her is, if Godolkin's alive, he might be able to stop Homelander. Marie then heads to bed where her and Jordan discuss everything that happened that day, and everything does, in fact, make sense with the whole Thomas Godolkin thing, but they figure, all right, we'll just figure it out in the morning. But that night, Marie can't sleep. She's slowly coming to the realization that she is, in fact, more powerful than all of her friends combined. She's got to do something then. So that night, she gets up in the middle of the night, she goes to check on her sister who's sleeping soundly, and then she goes to leave. But as she's leaving the property, she gets stopped by Kate, who says, I think you can help me. I think you can use your powers to actually heal my powers, and thus, I can help you control Cipher. But Marie doesn't say anything to that offer. She just continues to walk, and Kate figures, all right, then I'll follow you. And as for Cipher, once he found out that Vikor came up short, if you will, he took his anger out on Polarity. He didn't handle it well, and using his powers, he was able to get Polarity to slap the shit out of himself. But he also revealed his idea for Godolkin U. He told Polarity, this whole idea of God U has been watered down. We're accepting anybody. So after I'm done, we're going to eliminate 75% of the student body. Only the strong will survive. And by eliminate, you figure he's talking about killing them off. And Polarity's like, dude, you're nuts. But Cipher doesn't care. And then he tries one more time to use his powers to get Polarity to slap himself, only this time Polarity fights back, which is a big surprise to Cipher, and Polarity uses his powers to throw Cipher out of the building. But once he goes to check down below on if Cipher survived, Cipher's just gone. In episode 7, as Marie and Kate make their way towards campus, in the middle of the night, Annabeth wakes up to a very realistic nightmare, and it's something that she's been dealing with for a while because it's part of her powers. It's a premonition. And the premonition is that Marie is dead in a pool of her own blood. So it is truly a nightmare. And when she wakes up, she realizes Marie is gone. But as the kids wake up, because there's a commotion going on in the hall, they all realize it's not just Marie, it's Kate as well. And this was planned. And for Jordan, they can't believe that Marie once again abandoned them. But Jordan has a pretty good idea of where they're headed, so they're going to borrow Stan Edgar's car, and they're going to head to campus. Jordan is going to be accompanied by Annabeth, while Sam takes Emma and is going to jump to campus to make it there quicker so they could hopefully find Marie. On the way to campus, Jordan and Annabeth get acquainted. Annabeth tells Jordan all about her powers and when she started getting them, and then they get into the fact of the relationship between Jordan and Annabeth's sister. Jordan says, yeah, I thought we were something, but you can clearly tell that Jordan is really upset by what Marie did in the middle of the night, just leaving, again, with no notice. At this point, though, Marie and Kate have arrived back on campus. They're just outside of Cipher's home, and Marie makes it clear to Kate, the only reason I brought you here was because you were going to tell the others what I was doing. That is it. I don't want you here. And as for restoring Kate's powers, Marie isn't about to do that because she doesn't trust Kate. She can't trust Kate. Not after all that Kate has done to Marie and her friends. Kate's the whole reason why they were in Elmyra in the first place. So to restore Kate's powers, even though Kate is promising her, won't use them on you or your friends or anybody. I just want to find Cipher and take him down. She's not buying any of it. Either way, the two make their way towards Cipher's home, but when they get there, it's a little weird because there is no security out there, which is something that Kate did warn Marie about. So they just walk in. And because Kate's powers are jacked up at this point, she can tell that there is somebody with a weak heartbeat in the home, and they just assume that it's gotta be Thomas Godolkin. But when they get into the room, the hyperbaric chamber is empty, and that weak heartbeat is coming from Polarity, who shows his face, and he is going through it. He is in a rough state, but he went after Cipher to try to find him because now he knows that his powers might be a little more powerful than Cipher's. Unfortunately for him, though, he is in no state to go after anybody. So Marie helps him to the couch and puts a towel on his head because she can tell that he is in a bad state. And he turns to her and says, why did you come back here? It's what he wanted. And that's when they explain to Polarity that they believe the man that Cipher was keeping in that hyperbaric chamber is Thomas Godolkin, which gets him to sit up. They fill him in on everything that Stan Edgar told them and their plan, and he says, you really think that Godolkin is going to help you, even if all of this were true? And they say, yeah, I mean, he's been kept prisoner by this guy. Polarity, though, warns them, Godolkin might be more dangerous than Cipher. But Marie says, I don't think we have a choice. Polarity, though, believes that he can knock Cipher out again, but as Kate points out, look, you did it once, and it's impressive, but look at you. You're in rough shape. You're in no shape to do it again. And that's when all of a sudden Polarity starts having a seizure, which is affecting the lights and everything, but Marie jumps into action. Now that her powers are heightened, she is able to cure Polarity. Now, it takes a lot out of her. Her nose is bleeding, and it did hurt Kate. Much like when she cured Annabeth, it hurt everybody in the room. But Polarity is stunned. When he comes to, his tremors are gone. He actually says aloud, I didn't remember what it was like to actually feel healthy again. And now with a healthy Polarity, all they have to do is find Cipher. So the first place they head is to his office, but he is not there. Polarity points out, look, I mean, if he was dragging around a charred up body that's semi-alive, somebody must have saw something, and we have somebody here who can get people to talk. So, Marie, why don't you help Kate out and fix her? But Marie is stunned that Polarity is suggesting that. At first, she thinks that Kate put him up to it, which Kate says, I didn't say anything. And Polarity points out, Marie, it's the obvious move. But Marie gets even more upset when she hears that, because to her, it's not the obvious move. She reminds everybody in the room, Polarity and Kate, that it was Kate who has betrayed them time and time again. It was Kate who was the reason that they were in Elmyra. And while they went out and saved Kate from Elmyra, she doesn't trust her at all. By the look of Kate's face as she's getting browbeat, you can tell that Kate does feel bad about her actions. It gets so bad that Marie blames Kate for Andre's death. Polarity jumps in and says, whoa, if you want to blame anybody for that, blame me. I didn't protect him enough. But when the conversation settles down, Marie still isn't willing to cure Kate. They need to think of something else. And as they're sitting there, they get a phone call from Cipher. I guess Kate completely forgot that the first time she went to go look at that hyperbaric chamber, Cipher texted her and said, hey, I have cameras. So when Kate and Marie stepped foot in that room, Cipher was cued into the fact that Marie had returned. And it was music to his ears. He also, though, had cameras in his office, so he knew where they were, and he called her up. And he said, hey, did Polarity tell you about my offer that your friends can survive if you just work with me? But Marie says, no. He told me about the fact that you want to, quote, cull the herd. Cipher kind of laughs and says, oh, I get it. No, you're after me because you're mad about what I did to your baby sister. And Marie says, yeah, you slit her throat, but as Cipher points out, I did it because I knew that you could bring her back under that pressure, and you did. You need to continue to work with me. It's the only way that you and your friends will survive. You need to think about my offer. And then he hangs up. But during the conversation, Marie knows where Cipher is. She knows that he's at the training center because she could hear the doors closing. So now it's just a matter of heading over there. At this point, though, the other group has made it back to campus. As expected, Sam and Emma showed up first. Sam wanted to keep a low profile, but he was spotted by Rufus and another guy from the frat, and they gave him some pledge that he could haze for the time being, even though Sam didn't want that. And while Sam was receiving this pledge that he didn't want, Emma was saying hello to Greg, which caught the eye of Sam because all of a sudden he realizes he's got competition and he is jealous. But as Emma fills Greg in on what they're going through, Greg says, look, I'll go up in the sky and I'll look around the perimeter for Marie and I'll report back to you. He, though, is a little hesitant that Emma is so willing to work with Sam because he doesn't trust him. But Emma sticks up for Sam, saying, no one's ever had this kid's back. Now, I trust him. Now, go up and report back. She then runs over to Sam and tells him what Greg is doing, while her and Sam are going to split up around campus, meet back up, and hopefully at that point, somebody has located Marie. After a little bit of time, they do. Emma and Sam meet back up. They came up empty, and Sam admitted that he was a little jealous of Greg when Greg showed up because he saw Marie going to the training center. As for Jordan and Annabeth, they also headed over there, but Annabeth's visions are getting worse. Luckily, though, they're all able to intercept Kate, Marie, and Polarity before they step foot in there, and they warn Marie, you can't go in. And they fill her in on Annabeth's visions, but Marie is adamant, I'm going in, I have to stop this guy. And when they point out, again, that Annabeth is having these visions, Marie says, she didn't have any visions about getting kidnapped or her throat slit. No, nothing about that, right? I'm sorry, but I have to do this. And that's when Jordan grabs her arm and says, I'm sorry, Marie, but Annabeth told you how this ends, and it's not good. I can't let you go in there. But Marie is more powerful than all of them. So she looks at Jordan and says, I'm sorry. And then using her powers, she starts lifting Jordan's body in the air. But not just Jordan. She lifts Jordan, Sam, and Emma. The only ones still on the ground are Annabeth, Kate, and Polarity. And as she's got the three dangling in the air, she looks at Kate and says, if I restore your powers, will you use them on them to get them to leave? And Kate says, no, I told you, I'm not using my powers on you guys ever again. It's at that moment where Polarity yells at Marie, Marie, stop it. Let them go. And she does. They all drop to the ground. They're all shocked. Annabeth is kind of mortified. But Marie and Polarity head in the training center, and Marie tells them, you keep Cipher busy. I'm going to go locate Thomas Godolkin. And that's exactly what Polarity does. He easily locates Cipher. They start kind of peacocking back and forth, tough talking, and that's when the rest of the kids show up, and Polarity thinks this will be easy. There's a ton of us, and I've already kind of defeated Cipher once. I'll easily be able to keep this guy busy. Hell, I might even be able to defeat him. But that isn't going to be easy, because while Polarity's powers did work on Cipher, Cipher is still able to get in the heads of all the other kids, and he does that. Starting off with Sam beating up Polarity, moving into a couple of the other kids. Polarity has no idea who is being controlled by Cipher when, and at that moment, he's kind of just trying to survive. They all are. The good news is, though, Marie has located the body of Thomas Godolkin. She asks him, are you Thomas Godolkin? He confirms, and then she says, okay, look, I'm going to cure you because we need your help in stopping Cipher. And she starts using her powers. It doesn't take long before all of a sudden his charred body starts coming back to life. But all of that took so much out of Marie that she collapses. Now, over in the training center, Polarity was finally able to use his powers to knock Cipher out. And it's around that time where, in the basement, Thomas Godolkin was kind of brought back to life a little bit. So this frees up Kate, Emma, and Annabeth to go check in the basement on how Marie is doing when they find her body just lying there. And Annabeth tells them, this isn't exactly my vision. I mean, not quite. But as they're trying to get Marie up and get her back awake, you've got Thomas Godolkin just admiring the fact that all of this worked. He says aloud, she knew that you had to come back here to save everyone and be the big hero. It's annoying how smart she is. And he's talking about Sister Sage. Kate is able to quickly discern the fact that Thomas Godolkin not only will not be helping them, but Thomas Godolkin is Cipher. So she looks at both Emma and Annabeth and says, we got to get the hell out of here. That is Cipher. And Cipher lets them go. On the outside, the poor guy that was Cipher, well, his real name was Doug. And he was really just a puppet that Thomas Godolkin was using. So when he finally came to, he's got Polarity ready to chop his head off. And he explains, no, I'm not that guy. He just let me go. My name's Doug. I worked at Blockbuster. It's either an incredible acting job or it's the truth, and Polarity lets him live. But at this point, Thomas Godolkin has made his way out of the building. He's already initiated his plan on culling the herd by killing one student whose superpowers are, he can turn his feet into hands. And now it's just a matter of time before he does, in fact, eliminate 75% of the student body. And in the season finale, Polarity, Emma, Jordan, Marie, they all take Doug, the old Cipher, back to Polarity's place, and they just start hearing his side of things. Basically, he was working at a Blockbuster Video, and the old Doug, who at that point was a very, very old man, he showed up. He got some backstory on Doug, realizing that he didn't really have any family members. Nobody would be looking for him. And Godolkin had him switch places. And then he had Doug kill the first version. And as Doug is talking about this, you can tell he really is upset about having to kill this guy. He didn't want to. He's trying to explain what it was like having Godolkin in his head, and Jordan jumps in and says, yeah, it's like being in the backseat of a car you're not driving. Annabeth then asks a really good question. If he can control anybody, why can't he control Marie? And Doug says it's because she's too powerful. He tried in Elmyra and he wasn't able to. The one thing he wasn't lying about is Odessa. It put you on a different level. Doug, however, is really banged up. They realize that he needs a doctor immediately. They can't take him to a hospital. It's too risky. So Polarity says, I have a friend who might be able to help him out. I'll drive him there. And while he's doing that, the kids are going to figure out what exactly they're going to do about Godolkin, who at this point is enjoying being, quote-unquote, back. He's enjoying it with Sister Sage. They hook up. They have pillow talk about moving in together. And then they get into why he wants to be back so badly. His big vision. He still wants to, quote-unquote, cull the herd. And Sister Sage can't figure out why exactly he even wants to do this. It's not important, at least to her. But to him, teaching this last class where he will start to cull the herd is very important. and there's nothing stopping him from doing it. At this point, though, the kids have gotten back to Godolkin. They're sitting in a dorm. They're trying to figure out what they want to do, and their big concern is the fact that Godolkin would get into Marie's head and then be able to just control her. The girls then share a heartwarming moment together, and while Emma's in the bathroom, Marie decides, you know what, it's time that I do, in fact, fix Kate. And she does. But then a few seconds after she does fix Kate, everybody gets a message on their phone. And I don't mean just them. Everybody at Godolkin U gets a message, and it is from Thomas Godolkin, announcing that he has returned, he is not dead, and announcing that the rankings are no more. They're going to hold open tryouts for new rankings. They're going to break everybody up into certain groups. You're going to show up at the facility where Cipher was kind of doing that little training seminar, and this is your chance. And for a lot of the kids, the rankings do matter because it means monetary gain. The higher your rank, the more money you get. So a lot of kids are like, thank God this is my chance, not realizing it is a death sentence for a lot of them. For Marie and her group, they realize exactly what Cipher's doing. They also realize they need to stop it. So Marie puts out her own message saying, hey, do not go. I'm telling you, you will regret it, but no one really listens. But while Marie is doing that, the others are actually going around campus trying to stop people from going to this quote-unquote seminar, including Emma and Sam, who go to Sam's frat, which includes Rufus, and they try to tell them, guys, don't go, but Rufus uses his powers to shut them up, drugging them essentially, and he ends up going, along with a few others. They're in the first group. And Rufus, along with everybody else, quickly realize when they get to the seminar that they made a grave mistake. I mean, Godolkin tears them all up, controlling the majority of them to fight each other. One kid is able to get out of there, and he runs through campus screaming. He's killing them in there. He's killing them. But no one's really listening, except Marie. Marie does end up hearing this. She listens, and now her suspicions are confirmed. Godolkin is a madman. Before Marie goes and handles whatever's going on with Godolkin, she does have to have a serious conversation with Jordan, though, apologizing for leaving her again, where Jordan breaks up with Marie, saying, look, this is never going to work. You hate to see young love die, but it does die. The group then, which includes Annabeth, Sam, Emma, some random guy from Sam's frat, they all get together along with Jordan and Marie, and they need to come up with an idea, and Sam and Emma think they have a pretty good one. This is an idea to actually be able to stop Godolkin once and for all. But they aren't the only ones that want to stop Godolkin, because Sister Sage was watching his little seminar the entire time, and she's now concerned that his eye is off the prize, as Godolkin is basking in the fact that he was only really able to control one or two people at most, and now he's able to control more than that at one time. Sister Sage asks him, what are you doing? He tells her that he's evolving, leveling up, and he's doing it for the betterment of the soup population. But she doesn't buy that. He tells her, no, I'm serious. Once I'm strong enough, I'll be able to control her. And if I can control one Odessa baby, I can control the other one. The other one being Homelander. But she shakes her head and says, no, there's no reason to. And he says, there's every reason to. Look at this school. These students are pathetic. She starts trying to reason with him, but there is no reasoning with him. And that's when she realizes she needs to step in and do something. And in order to do something, she needs to get the one person who was able to somewhat fight him off, that being Polarity. So she gets the new Noir to go track down Polarity, and he's able to do that as Polarity is driving Doug to the hospital. And they have a really good conversation. Doug actually makes Polarity feel a lot better by telling him, you know, Andre was the greatest soup I've ever seen. I mean, the things that he did in Elmyra to push back on Godolkin, he would have been so proud. And in that moment, it really, really does help Polarity heal. But then Noir shows up. He ends up killing Doug, trapping Polarity, and bringing him into custody, where Sage is able to talk to him. They have a pretty tense conversation, and she doesn't flat out tell Polarity what she wants him to do. She's actually kind of insulting. But when she leaves, he notices that she left the door open. So he just walks out. And the big reason why she's doing all this is because she has a foolproof plan. And in phase 2 of that plan, Homelander is a vital part of it. But somewhere along the line, Godolkin thought that his plan was better. And of course, she, being so smart, knows that it's not. She doesn't want to take any risks. And now he's a risk. At this point, Godolkin has gone to his next seminar with the next group of students that he can just weed through, but that's when Marie shows up. Godolkin immediately starts controlling the students in the room to attack Marie, but she's able to get through the majority of them. And that's when the cavalry shows up. Emma, Jordan, Sam, Harper, Allie, they were all in the room. It's hard to really explain how they were in the room without getting demonetized, but they were in somebody, basically, and that somebody pushed them out, and all of a sudden, Godolkin was overrun with soups. But he wasn't just overrun with soups. He was overrun by those that he would deem as being expendable. And those expendable soups teamed up together and ended up trapping him. The essential one really being Harper, who was able to get to him thanks to Allie's superpower of tying him up with her hair. And for 60 seconds, she was able to control everybody, letting all the students go free from Godolkin's reign of terror, where then a lot of them started getting everybody, all the innocent kids, out of there to safety. This left Marie, Annabeth, Kate, Jordan, Sam, the group. Marie really taking the lead, trying to talk to Godolkin, tell him that it's over, but as she started to control him, he was able to get into her head. It was their biggest fear realized. It was the vision that Annabeth had. And now that he was able to control Marie, Marie was able to control everybody else using her powers, and it wasn't looking good. And that is when Polarity showed up. Using his powers, Godolkin was thrown to the side. It freed up Marie. And at that point, Marie couldn't take any chances. She used her powers to just blow him up. As the group ended up leaving the training seminar area, Polarity said, "You guys got to get out of here. Vault's on their way, and this isn't looking good. Everybody thinks you're Starlighters." And initially, they don't want to go, but eventually they all realize, no, he's right. And it's Emma who tries to invite him to come with them, but he says, "No, I can't. I have unfinished business here." Before she leaves, though, she does say goodbye to Greg. They hook up, and then everybody gets the hell out of there. They get far enough off campus where they think that they're pretty safe, and then they start discussing how exactly they're going to get in contact with Stan Edgar. Nobody has a really good plan. Most of them table that conversation, though, because people have to use the bathroom and whatnot, and Marie goes up to Annabeth and says, "Look, Godolkin's dead. I mean, you can go. Live your life." But Annabeth's not leaving. She's not leaving Marie at this point. She's here to stick it out and stay by her side. That's when the lights start flickering, and Annabeth has a quick vision and says she's here. And she is obviously Starlight. She apologizes to all the kids, saying how idiotic it was that she fell for Sister Sage's trap, but does ask them, "Are you ready to join the resistance?" And she's not the only one. The A-Train is there as well. They were easily able to track down Marie and her group, so while they think they have their own resistance, they're on board to join this Starlight resistance against Vought. And that is the end of Season 2. Thank you so much again. That's part of the recap. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash the thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. Become a member of the channel. That'd be cool. I have merch and stuff. Christmas is coming up. Who doesn't like a t-shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something? And be nice in the comment section. If I made a mistake, mistakes happen. I'm not the perfect soup. Neither are you. And this was free. So just keep that in mind if I made a mistake. Be respectful and baby shit soft. But rest assured, I will be here for Season 3.